What is Adam Schiff trying to hide? I think that's a question so many people have, so many of my colleagues have, so many people in the press should have, is through those hidden closed doors over there, Adam Schiff is trying to impeach a president of the United States behind closed doors, literally trying to overturn the results of the 2016 election a year before Americans get to go to the polls to decide who's going to be the president. And frankly, it should be the people of this country who decide who's going to be the president, not Nancy Pelosi and not Adam Schiff in secret behind closed doors.
Yes, we really should be afraid. I'm not trying to put fear into you, but we are losing our country. We're losing the freedoms that this country offered. That's the reason why so many people want to come here. It's because we were promised after the Civil War equal justice under the law, a fair trial, where we not only could get the evidence from our accusers beforehand and take a look at it and see if there's holes or see how fabricated this evidence might be. They can't just present it in court and say this is true. Your attorney has a chance to look at it and say, this isn't even real, or this is real. You have to be prepared for this. How do you answer to this evidence? Where we could question the witnesses that they're bringing forward, and we would see a list of witnesses. This is how a trial works. A list of witnesses, and see who's on that list and who may be a plant. Is there one of them, maybe all of them, all but one, are a plant, and one of them is just going to fabricate some stuff? Sometimes a judge will allow evidence in at the last minute. Evidence that has just presented itself that didn't have time to give to the defendant so the defendant can look it over. Because the judge, if the judge is fair, knows that this evidence is very important and it looks pretty credible, and that it really did come at the last minute. But they're behind closed doors, and what they're doing is it's just going to affect Trump, and he's rich, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's not going to affect me. Yes, it's going to affect you in many ways. First of all, Trump is the only one that's holding up the foundations of this nation. The amendments and the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, everything that made our country free and free enterprise. And if your business isn't producing a good product, then your business, unless you improve, your business will fail because nobody will be buying the product. They're trying to sell you a world where you just take what we give you and nobody's going to do any better because they don't have to, because everybody gets paid the same. So your eggs and toast might be burnt and you might have to wait 3 hours for it. And the place won't close down because the government that controls the ways and means of productions. This is the restaurant that they've decided on, and this is the restaurant that runs on everything green. And there'll be no other place. And the waitress may be very surly, and you can't complain. You can't go to anywhere else because there is nowhere else. That's what made this country so great, and what's actually helping India and China lift out of poverty is because capitalism has been injected into those countries. So Trump wants it to remain a capitalist system. That's how we got prosperous to begin with. And a part of it was the immigrants that came over. And in 1921, boom, immigration was closed. Why was it closed? Because all these immigrants that came in that wanted to be American citizens, where when you came in, you had to have a job waiting for you. You had to have a sponsor because you couldn't be a burden on the government, and you couldn't have a disease. It's like borders open, diseases are coming in that have been eradicated from this country. Will that see the immigrants that made this country great? Those were the conditions. No welfare state. You cannot be a burden on the state. And then, boom, immigration closed. Why did it close? 4 years until Ted Kennedy proposed to open it up again in 1965, because he said we wouldn't be bringing any immigrants in from these third world countries. It'd be from Ireland, the good countries. America wanted these new immigrants to assimilate into the American culture. The reason why America became what it was because the immigrants they kept some of their culture, but they assimilated, and their children assimilated into American culture. They became Americans. That's the difference. They didn't still wave the flags of their former countries, which they had fled because the country is so miserable, right? And they were so poor there. They embraced America and waved the American flag. That's the difference. That's the difference. And they came here for our freedoms and our justice system. If this changes, and which they're changing it now, we saw with Kavanaugh, we saw the Mueller investigation was at least a legitimately set up investigation. And we had a chance to question Mueller. We got the documents, we looked at them, even though he had no idea what he was doing or who anyone else was doing. Everyone he hired were Clinton and Obama supporters. Everybody he hired was against Trump. But they came up with the same conclusion, that there was no evidence. And if they wanted to continue, Congress wanted to continue investigating, they could. Of course, they left that open. Now, what we're seeing is Kavanaugh. What happened with Kavanaugh? That was a play. There were witnesses. I'm sure there was a casting call. None of their stories panned out, least of all, of course, the one with the you-know-what in her face is, oh my God, that was ridiculous. But Blasey Ford was supposedly the best of them all, but Blasey Ford had a PhD in psychology. If you have a PhD in psychology, then you know the tools and you know how to work yourself out of a trauma that happened when she was 16 years old, that he didn't even touch her inappropriately, didn't take her clothes off. Nobody there remembered this happening, and everyone claimed that this party never even happened. She didn't even know where it happened or when it happened. That was their best witness. A psychologist with a PhD who cannot get over a trauma, which is a non-trauma, as far as I'm concerned. If it was a trauma, it wouldn't have lasted that long. But through her experience, her line of work is listening to people with real trauma, real crimes committed against them. And if she could not go through school, she could not get through school having to research all these cases and listen to people where horrendous things happened to them. She wouldn't have been able to get through school. I knew right away it was a lie, and I called her a liar. I called her a liar flat out. People were afraid to do that, other pundits, they were afraid to do that because, something might have happened in her childhood and she thought it was, or when she was a teenager, and she thought it was Kavanaugh. They wanted to give her that kind of, but no way can she hold that degree and be like this little girl lying. And everyone by law that brought up all these false accusations against Kavanaugh, they all raised their hand. and swore an oath to tell the truth. They should all be in jail. But they're not, obviously, because they're Democrats. And if you are for Hillary and you're a Democrat, then it's okay. But you know what the funnier thing is that the Democrat Party has abandoned Hillary too. The voters who went insane in the streets, paid by Soros, that Women's March was paid by Soros, they're abandoning. Most of them have abandoned Hillary because they had that little talk, her and Bill, across the country. First, it was $3,000 to get in. Then they couldn't even give the tickets away. They kind of left her. They were so passionate for her, they left her. Why were they voting for her? First woman? Well, we've got some other women running. Was it abortion? Was it all the abortion thing? Is this the reason why that the Democrats are just playing to everyone's emotions? This is how you get an angry mob. This is how you get a lynch mob together. And lynching, the term, was first coined because William and Charles Lynch in Pennsylvania, they were rounding up people who still were loyal to the Crown of England. And so that's where you got the word lynch. They were lynched for not, like Benedict Arnold. He was lynched for treason. But usually a lynch mob means that it's mob rule. It's a mock trial. It isn't real. So if you use that word, it's applicable to what they are doing to the president. Because it's mob rule. Mobs are stirred up by emotion. And I mentioned, you're hearing it all over the place, about the grisliest lynching, largest mass lynching in American history was against the Italians, and in New Orleans. And this year, New Orleans finally apologized, and that's the reason why we have Columbus Day, was to honor the Italians because of their contribution, and because this horrible thing happened to them. America gave them Columbus Day, and thank you, SJWs, for taking it away. We're just going to have to go to South America to celebrate it, because they celebrate it down there. Very funny. Very interesting. But I think it's like a year ago, Columbus Day, I made a video about that, and everybody's talking about it now. Interesting. So this is a lynch mob, and this lynch mob, that seems like the only thing these Congress people are doing, they're not taking care of their constituents, the needs. Remember, lowering taxes used to be the big thing, bringing jobs, everybody's promised a job, lowering prescriptions, which affect primarily the middle class, because the poor will get them for free under Obamacare, and the rich can write it off. So it's the middle class that's being hurt, but it's the middle class that a socialist system eradicates. So that's going to happen. And they're not voting on to renegotiate NAFTA. They could be doing that, and that's going to bring in 176,000 jobs to people who maybe didn't even finish school, let alone go to a trade school or college. They could have a job too. So everybody, no matter what level you're at, you can have a job. That would be great. But the Congress isn't doing that. The Democrats have stirred up so much emotion. The only thing that matters is to get rid of this person that you didn't know for, he's been in the limelight since 1970. We've known everything that he's ever done. And he was the top celebrity on NBC for 19 years. Nobody called him a racist. Everyone loved him. He was given awards by Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton for hiring more minorities, African Americans and women, than anybody else. And in fact, when the Rainbow Coalition, to promote diversity and help people, the minorities, they needed a building in New York City, they asked him to find one for them. And what he did was he gave it to them. He didn't even charge them. So this is the guy, and he gave millions to civil rights as well. You don't hear about this. You just hear all of a sudden this man is turned into a racist. And because of this, it's by any means. So by any means, you don't care if your justice system, your right to equal justice under the law, is taken away from you. You don't care that this is going to fall on you. Once they change it up there in the legislative branch, they will take out any president behind closed doors, without witnesses, with hearsay witness. Anybody could stand up and say, I heard this, and it's a complete and total lie. Doesn't even mean that they heard it. And even if they heard it, doesn't mean the person saying it or is even telling the truth. You're going to be judged by that law because that's going to trickle down. And they're going to take anybody out of power that they want. And they're going to usher in one-party rule. And they're going to let voting go on for a little while. Yes, they will. To make us think that we still have our power, our voices are still heard. But what's going to happen is that the elections will be fixed, as they are in South America, as they are in any communist country. They make you think you're voting, but you're not voting. The election is fixed. Okay. So they'll make us think that we still have power, but it's already been taken away from us. Then it'll be an outright dictator when there's no point. Or if you do vote for the dictator, the dictator gets 100 million to 0. Somehow everybody votes for him, even the dead. You set precedent. This is setting precedent. What's going on? Little do you think, this is not just behind what's going on behind closed doors in our legislative branch by the Democrats to make their constituents happy because they riled them up with emotion to hate Trump supporters, all Trump supporters, you see. Nobody is individual anymore because we're turning socialist. Socialist is the idea of non-personhood. So it doesn't matter who you are hated. You're just hated because of who you voted for. Not ask me why I voted for him. Just ask me why, and I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you also the kind of person I am. See the person I am. No, they no longer see who you are or what your needs are or why you voted for him. And a lot of people, minorities, also voted for him. People who are poor, not all well-off minorities, all had reasons to vote for him. But you won't stop and listen to that. You will just put us all in one bunch and you will damn us all. Just like when Obama sat back and white people were getting pulled out of cars and beaten up because they probably voted for Trump. And Obama says, they're getting what they deserve. As the president of the United States, he should have sent out the National Guard to stop that. He should have spoken to these people. No, but it was his party that riled them up. This is all planned. See, that's exactly what the KKK did. But that's the Democrat Party, going out at night and rounding up freed slaves, anyone who was against the Democrat Party or anyone who was a Republican. And I'm sure you've heard, as I've mentioned many times in my videos, that 1/3, when they were talking about lynching lately, 1/3 of those lynched by the KKK were white Republicans. So Trump can use the word lynch in regard. It does apply to him. Because 1/3 of them were Republicans. Those are the Republicans who fought to end slavery. It's the party of abolishing slavery. They were down there in the South to help freed slaves work themselves into society. Because if you're a slave, you don't know how to work in the society that was set up for freed people. to be able to work in a world where people are free. So by saying that only one group of people were lynched, you are erasing their name from their gravestone. You're erasing their lives, their heart, their soul, their mission. Their lives meant nothing. They died in a horrific way, and it meant nothing. That's what you do by saying it only applies to this one group, when it was originally started by Charles William Lynch in Pennsylvania for people who were still loyal to the crown, not slaves, white people who were loyal to the crown. So it actually started white people. That's where the word came from. If I were Loretta Lynch, I always wondered about her and why she kept that name, such a horrible name. Why didn't she just change it to a Loretta Lynn? Just shorten the name to Loretta Lynn. That would be a much better name. But you see, this is going to trickle down to our justice system. The justice system that you may one day, and we already are, if you're a Trump supporter, accused of something that you didn't do, you're all racist, you're all stupid. They always say that Trump supporters didn't go to college, the uneducated, which is a lie. Many Trump supporters are very educated. They lump you all into a bundle, and when they want to accuse you of something to get you off the streets, you will be judged by this new system behind closed doors, where they're probably getting their stories straight, practicing the play, getting their actors together. But I warn you, you people who are not Trump supporters, once things change and it's not equal protection and justice under the law, you're an individual and you have different needs and different wants. You didn't come out of a cookie cutter. You still have a brain. You still have a soul to think for yourself. So I warn you, Democrats, it's going to come down on you too. One day you will be judged the way you are judging Trump supporters and the way you are judging Trump, because it is a kangaroo court. And just because one day you'll stand up and say, no, I want to be different. I want to think for myself. This isn't wrong. I don't like this. You won't be able to do it, or they'll just haul you in and have some mock trial and put you away or kill you. That's what's going to happen. Once you see, you are judged by the way you judge others. Judge not, lest ye be judged. That's why Jesus said that. You will be measured by the same weight that you measure other people. By those who are about to throw the stone to kill the adulteress, not the guy who was committing adultery. They were judging her, and Jesus said, by the same measure, you are judged. If you are measuring by what the prophets had said, laid out at what a crime is, all of you have committed crimes that are worthy of stoning. Everything was the death penalty. Stealing a crust of bread, not everything, lying, everything was a death penalty. So he was saying, you're going to be judged by the way you judge her. That rock, that stone is for you. So they dropped all the stones because nobody was sinless. They're going to find something on you. Watch out. If you care about the freedoms, the reason why people want to come to this country, the freedoms and the equal justice under the law, that we need to be judged fairly. It already went down when Obama was in office, the Tea Party. They branded them all racist, even though there were noted African Americans that belonged to it. There wasn't racism. They just wanted to bring the country back to its ideals. freedom and equal justice under the law, all that kind of stuff. And so anybody who wanted to have a group that was conservative or Tea Party group were audited and threatened of audit by Lois Lerner ran that, and who worked for Obama. So that's how he got elected again, because the word couldn't get out of what the Tea Party movement was really about. They just branded them all racist. Herman Cain, he was one of them. Descendant of slaves on both sides of his family. So it's been done. It's been done, and by Democrats. So this is being implemented in our system now, in our justice system. It's changing. And we're seeing it, and it's going to fall on you one day. Even if you supported Hillary, it's going to come back to you, or it's going to come back to your children, or someone you love, or a friend of yours. Someone is going to be judged by the same measure. I warn you.